Hi there guys, welcome back to Dad Plays Stuff. Now today is a little different. It's a Pokemon Dynamax video, where I just briefly talk about my thoughts and feelings on it and ask the question, why is there two versions of this game this time around? So before we get properly started, please drop me a like, a comment and subscribe. Now if you've been under a rock, or you've literally just bought Sword and Shield, Dynamax is a new mechanic where you basically turn your Pokemon Godzilla-sized. In this state, they use powerful moves that can have various different effects, like causing weather-related abilities, and some terrain effects. For example, Max Overgrowth causes some sort of regeneration aura, giving each Pokemon health back at the end of the turn. Unfortunately, when used by the player, this form can only be held for 3 turns. Now, the max raid battles can be initiated by going to Pokemon dens around the map in the wild area, and they spawn Pokemon with a star rating describing how difficult these individuals are, 1 being the weakest, 5 being the strongest. When you enter a raid, you can either go alone and have free NPCs tag along. These NPCs have random Pokemon, so this can be a huge disadvantage, and I'd always recommend players, because if you faint too many times, the Dynamax storm that's above the Pokemon's head will blow you out of the den. You can, however, repeat the raid until you win, but if you're consistently going with NPCs, it can be incredibly difficult at the higher levels of difficulty. So, at the higher levels of difficulty, another thing that the Pokemon does is that they can create a shield in order to block damage, sometimes multiple times in the battle. These shields so far I've seen have a health bar of 2 to 6 blocks, and a normal Pokemon attack will break 1 block. A Dynamax Pokemon attack will break 2 blocks. Now keep in mind, damage can actually overflow over the block. So for example, if you hit with a super effective move from a Dynamax Pokemon, when the enemy's defense is incredibly low, it'll hit through a certain amount of damage. Now when the barrier breaks, the Pokemon's defense does drop, so that does give you a bit more leverage against them. Now, within the spectrum of Dynamax are Gigantamax Pokemon. These are basically mega evolutions of this generation, and as a result, when a Pokemon has Gigantamax, its form changes. Sometimes it's only slightly, sometimes it's a massive, drastic change in how the Pokemon looks. And each one of these Pokemon has its own G-Max move, usually attributed with the element that the Pokemon is. So a fire Pokemon will have a G-Max fire type move, and so on and so forth. So basically, Game Freak combines Z-moves and Mega Evolutions into the one thing, essentially. So, to summarise, the main things you need to know about doing max raid battles consistently is that at higher levels, the Pokemon will use barriers, thus having players becomes vital. Taking a type that isn't resistant to the enemy can be a huge mistake, and taking a particularly fragile Pokemon or insta-kill moves, it's pointless, they're just going to get destroyed really quickly. But if you can triumph, they provide a lot of cool stuff upon defeating them. You can catch the Pokemon, and they drop pretty much XP boosting candies, berries, treasures to sell, and the new TRs, usually for the element, or rather type, the Pokemon is. These are basically single-use TMs, so the battles are definitely worth doing for a multitude of reasons. Now, let's discuss the version exclusives in Pokemon Sword and Shield. As you can see, I'm fighting a Trevenant, and that's a Pokemon that's exclusive to Pokemon Sword. Now, I'm playing Shield, and why is that a big deal? You know, I'm able to get the Pokemon, I'm able to fight it, I'm able to catch the Dynamax version. Well, simply put, doing online max raid battles, I'm not giving anything up. I'm not trading with people. I'm not interacting with people. Don't get me wrong, the GTS had its flaws in the fact that you basically just have people put a load of Pokemon that with ridiculous things that they wanted for it, you know, like a Clefairy for a Deoxys, that, you know, things that were just silly. But at least I was to an extent, interacting with the other person. I was trading with other people. This is discouraging you from trading, because when you catch one of these Dynamax Pokemon, quite often they have some pretty good IVs, which means you're just going to breed the stuff yourself. If not, just use the Pokemon that you've caught, if it's got the nature you like. And it's essentially taking out the interaction part of the Pokemon game in general. I mean, I played the original games back when they first came out, and if you wanted a specific version exclusive Pokemon, I had to find somebody, I had to speak to them, and I had to convince them to trade me for it, which wasn't difficult because, you know, they probably needed something from my game. But here we're in this situation where that isn't really feeling like the case anymore. The other players don't really have anything to offer me, to an extent. Obviously, if people have shinies, all that kind of thing. It's taken away the social aspect of a Pokemon game to an extent, and replaced it with essentially what is a very single player experience masquerading around as a multiplayer experience. Don't get me wrong, if you get a group of friends and you go around doing the Dynamax max raid battles, yeah, that's going to be fun. You're all going to be able to say, right, we'll use this, we'll do this, we'll do that. You can Dynamax, not Mega Evolve. You can Dynamax this time, I'll Dynamax next time, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, that's great, but it doesn't encourage you to meet new people like the older generations of games did. And I feel that that's something that's lost. It really is something we're losing in this game. And that's not to go into the whole cut Pokedex debate, which I understand why people are angry about. I just don't understand the way they went about airing those thoughts. And yeah, there's a lot of people that have bought the two versions, and it feels like you've only got one Pokemon and one gym leader between the two versions, essentially. And that's the legendary and the gym leader. That's not a big difference. It's not a difference worth paying for both games. I got the Dual Pack Steelbook Edition. Don't get me wrong, not too fussed about it. It's a minor kind of thing to me in that sense, but I'm surprised that other people aren't pissed off at the very finite differences between the two versions in comparison even to the last generation. So yeah, guys, if you disagree with me or agree with me, please make sure to leave a comment down below. Like the video if you enjoy my ideas and agree with my thoughts, and subscribe for more content like this in the future. I mean, I'm genuinely interested in what other people have to say about this, because I know there's a lot of stuff people have disagreed with the game, but until now I've not felt like there was anything majorly that I disliked. And don't get me wrong, I am really enjoying the game, and I really, really think it can do well, and it will do well, and I hope Game Freak releases updates and tweaks things and makes things a bit more, you know, social. But yeah, see you later, guys.